Mike, as far as obviously you've seen the progression and the changes since 1981 of like what's gone on in the outdoor industry itself, especially in Michigan. What are your biggest concerns looking ahead now? Because you've probably learned so much over the years that you can think about. This is what I'm worried about for the future. This is and see that.
I think for the first time in my life, I am genuinely concerned about the future of our outdoor heritage. And I never thought when I was a kid growing up that I would say that. I think going back to this NRC decision with the coyote hunt, I think we're seeing that it can actually happen. Not it could happen. It is happening here in our state. We've got political appointees that are making obviously the wrong biological decision, and how they even have the guts to do that, I'm not sure. But on my show, I'm always talking about the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle. I talk about how in Michigan, it's such a big part of our state's collective heritage, but also for many of us, our personal family histories. And and again, I talk about my family history, and to me, that's important. It's how we identify ourselves as Michiganders for many of us. And when I see the declining number of hunters, that's a concern, obviously. Our hunters and anglers getting older, that's a concern. That's why I love to see you guys getting so passionate about this. But and the anti-hunters, I mean, they're always going to be out there. We know that. They're absolutely crazy. They have no touch with reality, but they're very vocal. They have more money than God, and they're willing to use it. Those things we can all deal with. But when we see the people who are entrusted to help us manage these populations, these wildlife populations and fisheries, now not supporting us, this is what really gets me concerned. That and the infighting among hunting and fishing groups. The backstory of this Michigan coyote situation is it was originally proposed by a hunting or trapping group, I don't know, but a group of outdoorsmen. That's what got this whole thing going, and look what it blew up into.
What would be their incentive?
They have to be planted. I mean, that's
Yeah, it sounds like plants to me.
Patsies.
yeah.
Yeah, like I can't even think of an angle.
I've spent a lot of time looking at this, talking to people who claim to have been in on the initial meetings, and I don't know really what I should say, but I don't know. I'm quite confused by it. I'm confused and frustrated, and I shake my head about it.
One point that you made about the in hunting community fighting, I would say for our first 7 years, our biggest opposition was other hunters and fishermen. For whatever reason, anything we would post, we would get a lot of flack for. It could be the dumbest thing. Everyone knows everything, and everyone knows better than you, and everyone's the greatest, and everyone's the best hunter ever, and I've never even claimed to be right about everything. But that was kind of what we saw in the first 7 years. Once we launched on History Channel, we saw a complete flip on that, where I would say we saw a humongous increase in support from hunters and fishermen, a huge increase, where it was a very small minority were giving us any trouble. But what we saw is a giant increase on the vegan community, the PETA community, and I will tell you,
An anti-God.
They really hate that I love God. They really hate that. You wouldn't believe the hurtful things people have said, and I mean it bounces right off of me. I kind of enjoy it. It's like our favorite is like we'll read them, and the real mean ones get us to laugh. So it's like you can't hurt us. But
It took some thought to put that together. Wow.
It's like I did you wouldn't call it a sermon because I'm not a pastor. I guess a message at a church wild game dinner. And we recorded it for a vlog and posted it. And if you go look, there's hundreds of comments, death threats, and people hating me for like a guy. And what I've come to realize, Mike, so for the first 7 years, it was mostly the hunters that gave us crap. So when I would hear people say things like, a vegan said, why don't you go to the store and buy meat there where no animals had to die to feed you? And it's like, no one actually says that. Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I have news for you. I have come to find out in this last year that they do say that. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, some of the things people would say, we had on, you might get a kick out of it if you're out on the boat or something like that and want to listen to it. We did a podcast a few episodes ago with a very prominent vegan. And I did not study for it. I did not prepare in any way. I just went in fresh. And he came in and because he had been one of the vocal people that rallied a group of people that hate us on Facebook. So I had him on to debate me. I said, let's be nice to each other, too. Let's not fight. Let's get along. Let's have a very civil conversation. We had it. And what I will say is this.
You did a good job.
Yeah. What I will say is Ryan dressed up as a judge from like the 1700s with like the curly hair and stuff. It was so funny. But we have the guy on. We debate him. And what was interesting to me, Mike, was the evolution of the ideas from the other side that has come to be. It used to be just don't do this and don't do that, and it was very plain and simple. I mean, they're advocating that we release all of the farm animals that are in captivity right now, release them. They will go out and become feral again, and they'll just eat grasses.
And keep to themselves.
And they'll keep to themselves, and they won't eat crops, and they won't negatively impact other animals in any way, shape, or form. They won't eat crops, so we'll all be able to just live off the crops that are there because we won't be feeding them anymore, and there'll be plenty of habitat and food for everything. I've never even heard that proposed before, but it was ideas like that. I obviously knocked it into an oblivion with common sense and, what that would actually progress to. But what I'm seeing is like this new wave of argument that is not well thought out, but it's new. And that is being what's being pushed on our pages all the time is release all the farm animals, don't kill any animals, and
don't hurt them.
Yeah, don't hurt them. Yeah, they say
you can eat roadkill if you want.
Yeah, they did say that.
Yeah,
they did say I could have roadkill and that would be fine.
Roadkill is allowed.
I've done it. But it was fresh.
Yeah.
But that is what we're seeing is like these new forms of argument. And I was wondering, with your page or with your following, do you see mostly do you get pushback from hunters or do you get pushback from this new group?
Both.
Okay.
Both. But I expect it from the antis. That doesn't bother me. In fact, I kind of welcome if I can get them riled up and get them mad. I kind of like. But it does bother me and I don't think I'm the target I used to be, and I don't know if it's because, to be honest with you, I don't have a TV show, maybe don't have the prominence I used to, or maybe it's just they know that they're barking up the wrong tree and nothing's going to change. I'm not going to change what I say based on what they say. But why is it that with the other side, the antis, and I have no problem with non-hunters, God bless them.
Yeah.
That's fine. But the antis, why is it that they feel so determined to mandate and dictate to us how we should live and what we should do? When we look at them and say, okay, you're an anti, but we're not going to force you to become a hunter. We're not going to spend our life savings and we're not going to collect funds to force you to become a hunter. But yet they feel they need to force us to become non-hunters, anti-hunters. Why is it? Why can't they just let us live in our own world and do what we want?
Right.
We continue our history and tradition and continue to be stewards of the resource that we are. Why do they feel the need to control our lives? That's what really sticks in my craw.